topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Illinois. I guess I should say cold Illinois. I understand the temperature is 49 degrees there, but we're here in Florida where it's probably about 78 today. Anyhow, we are so glad you've joined us. Hey, for the next 50 minutes, we have the top attorney in two areas, and we split the show up between bankruptcy law and tax relief law, two very, very important topics. And we started promoting the show several days ago, and I've gotten 5 emails, 5 different people all over Illinois, all with the same question, which it'll be my start-off question with our great expert attorney, Kevin Benjamin. Good afternoon, Kevin.
Good afternoon. How are you?
It's so good. I love doing your show. This is such an important area, and I think it's because of the holiday season that I was just saying how we got 5 emails, 5 different people all around Illinois, all with the same question, which I'm going to get to open the show up. I'm sure some of them are listening today. We gave all 5 of them your phone number and your email. Kevin, tell us about your firm. It's what you've done with your firm, because you don't even remember me. I met you probably about 15 years ago in Florida at a Dr. Singe, I think his name was.
Manny?
Believe so.
Yeah.
That was a long time. I remembered you back then. And you have built up such a great practice. And people, I got to tell you, people love your stories and they love the way you explain things. So let's get started. Tell people about your firm.
Well, the firm is Benjamin Legal Services. I have a firm called Noble Tax Relief also, but the law firm is Benjamin Legal Services. We use benjaminlaw.com just for the short domain. We concentrate in the areas of bankruptcy, foreclosure issues, litigation, and tax resolution. With bankruptcy, it's Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Chapter 11, debt restructuring, all kinds of things, litigation, stopping foreclosures, restructuring, allowing people to stay in their homes, and tax resolution, mostly with the IRS. Offering compromises, installment agreements. I'm doing some appeals right now for some people. I'm also a member of the U.S. Tax Court, among other jurisdictions and things of that nature. And so basically people with owe money, whether it's creditors or IRS or state agencies or the banks, lenders, or, have issues, and we help them out.
Yeah, and you sure do that. So I was talking about, we got 5 emails, and they basically all said the same thing. They all want to know, how do you know when it's time to file bankruptcy?
Well, if you're calling me, it's probably an indication.
Yes.
Right now,
I think they want to know, as one of them said, my friends tell me I don't owe enough to file bankruptcy. Some of them tell me to wait, but a lot of them said and they want to know when it's time. Is there a money figure?
No, there's no money. First of all, stop talking to your. I mean, I know you're talking to your friends, but
Yeah.
why are you
right.
asking your friends for advice? They don't know. They heard someone who knows somebody. They think they know somebody. You know, most attorneys like myself will give you a free consultation, even by phone. I routinely block out, some time just to take possible questions from people and straighten them out. As far as waiting, that's hardly ever the solution until now. And the reason now is bankruptcy is federal law, but state exemptions, right? So Illinois doesn't have the best exemptions, and it's been a long time since they raised them. And the legislators finally, they're raising some of the exemptions for people starting January 1st. Since that's only less than 2 weeks away, some people I'm recommending, we just hold off. It depends what kind of case you're doing, because like equity in a house, like someone just called an hour ago, right? And he has a lot of equity in his house, so definitely we're waiting because, he's definitely would jeopardize the house right now. He may not in January. Otherwise, there's other things we could do, but it's going to be a lot closer. Even in some Chapter 13 cases, you may as well take advantage of the extra exemptions, even though you keep in your house and all your equity and stuff, because you don't know what happens 5 years later, during the 5 years of a home. So you want to take advantage in case it gets converted or something like that. If your client wants to do something else, that we have those exemptions. About 10 days ago, I had to file a case because the sale of the house was 2 days later, so and no choice. So we filed there, but normally waiting is it's not going to go away. So why are you waiting? You know what I'm saying? I mean, now I'm telling you to wait because of maybe exemptions. That's a legal reason. Otherwise, sometimes maybe you're waiting. I would tell you, not your friends. Maybe you don't qualify, but maybe given your situation, you qualify in a month or 2 or 3. I could figure that out for you. May have to do some exemption planning first. Make sure you don't lose anything. Exemption planning and bankruptcy planning is perfectly legitimate. But that's why you see a lawyer first. The consultation is free, so why talk to your friends? You might as well just call someone, like myself, and just ask us and say, what do we do? Did some things happen on your? Oh, that was strange. Looked like the 4th of July or something was just going on. Is that just me or is that your screen?
No, everything looks fine.
Oh, okay. Something flashed. Interesting. So anyway, I got distracted because something happened on my screen.
That's okay.
So you might as well call and ask us or someone myself, and we'll give you some free legal advice. Legal as far as my opinion on what you should do. If you're waiting because you think you're going to pay it off, then pay it off. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, it's not going to get better. It just gets worse. So oftentimes people do try to wait, and then they're calling for emergency cases and stuff like that, or they're being garnished, or somebody's been taken already, or a house is being sold like tomorrow because they're waiting. They think like they are going to just quick claim their deed or somebody, and it's going to be like stopping the foreclosure. It's not, because they went to some seminar who told them this ridiculous things. Or they're waiting for the bank to do something. Meanwhile, the bank, it's called dual tracking. They're foreclosing, at least in Illinois, it's a judicial state. So it's a legal process that you go through. And the people don't file appearances. They don't know they're getting defaulted in the foreclosure cases. They're moving for judgment. They're moving for right to sell the property. And they're selling it while they're telling you they're modifying the loan and, et cetera. And so you're going to wind up getting screwed for that as well. So there's no reason to wait, really, other than right now for exemption planning or if I tell you so. And there is no debt limit in Chapter 7. How much someone owes is relevant to their situation. Also, what kind of debt is it? Not all debts are dischargeable, for example. So that's why you should talk to a lawyer to make sure you can even discharge these things before someone tells you it's not enough debt. So, and if someone does tell you that, ask them, what's the number? Because there is no number.
Right.
I mean, owing $20,000 to one person is just like owing $200,000 to somebody else. or $1 million. I mean, it's like it's all relative to how many kids you have and your money and what's going on, or are they going to garnish you, take you, or what's happening.
So the bottom line is stop listening to your friends, stop listening to your relatives, and everybody's case is different. So all you got to do is call Kevin. He knows the right questions to ask. Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
You're going to ask.
Honestly, it's true. I've been doing this a long time, as others in the field have been. So might as well take advantage of the experience. And when someone calls and they ask well, how much? I need more facts to tell you everything.
Right.
On a consultation, what are your options, the pros and cons? What kind of cases are there? I mean, I'll give you that kind of, consultation. And then if I get more details, I could tell you other things. Some people don't have details, or once I get the details, it's not exactly what they said when they were talking. And we also help people check out values and things like that. And like someone might think that, like someone today, my house is worth $300,000. He said, maybe it is. I don't know. But oftentimes it's not what they think it is. So now the equity issue is not really an issue because it wasn't very close, or they don't realize they have the mortgage on there, or they have 2 or 3 other liens on there they didn't know about. So equity is how much you owe divided by what you owe on what's on the house is lien wise, mortgage, second mortgage, line of credit, judgment liens, stuff like that. So that's your equity.
We got an email, and we're talking federal bankruptcy here. So somehow somebody from Indianapolis was catching your show, and they wanted to know, can they lose their house or their car if they file for bankruptcy?
See, that's a general question. So the answer is, can you? Yes. But will you? That's why you're talking to someone like me. Because you don't just file. You don't just file. You know what I'm saying? You'll call me, and I'll tell you if it's an issue or not. Now, a car is usually a depreciating asset. There were a couple times during COVID where they were spiking, but it's usually a depreciating asset. And most people have no equity, little equity, or they're upside down, to tell you the truth. So, and then sometimes you can restructure that and get rid of some of the negative equity in a case, but that's kind of certain facts, right? So, and when someone has a car paid for, it's usually not worth all that much. And it depends on the amount there, plus the exemption you can claim. There's a car exemption to a certain amount in the state. There's also a wild card exemption, like in Illinois. So most people don't really have that issue. Plus, if there's even some non-exempt equity, it's got to be a certain amount before the trustee's even worried about taking it. And the car companies, the car lenders, they couldn't care less. I mean, if you want to keep your car and you want to keep making the mortgage, keep making the car payment, and have full coverage insurance, they just want the money. You know what I'm saying? So You're not going to lose your car. The lender's not taking your car, and the car's got to be worth something, a lot of equity or more than it's worth. And that's relative to the debts that you owe also, who the seven trustee is. So the answer is, it's a general question. Can you? Yes. Can you lose your house? Yes. But you're coming to me to not lose your house or your car. So if there's too much equity, for example, you do a different kind of case. It could be a Chapter 13. So sometimes in a Chapter 13, you pay some bills in full, some bills less than full. Maybe you have a certain amount of equity that you don't want to risk, but given your debt, hey, you can pay 7 cents on the dollar to your credit cards, 10 cents, 20 cents, 2 cents. I mean, depends on all those other things as well. And I'll give you my recommendation of what I think you should do in a case. Also, sometimes the amount of non-exempt equity is really minor towards all your debt. I mean, let's say I had one in Florida years ago. Like they held like $150,000 in debt. There was like, and Florida has some good exemption, but bad for car. They actually raised it since then, but back then it was only $1,000. So it was like $10,000, $11,000, and everyone was telling her to do Chapter 13, and I said, just do a 7. If they try to shake you down, and just buy out the equity, Like, well, where am I getting the money? Well, where are you getting the money to pay back $150,000 in Chapter 13? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, if you could pay $6,000, $7,000 after exemptions and stuff, and then get rid of $150,000, most trustees would take payments on that. But that's a unique situation. Most cars are not really an issue. I mean, unless you have like a car that's like, collector's one or, something like that. Or if you got a big Mercedes, usually it's not paid for, so.
Yeah, right. Let me go to this question. This is Kelly. And I got to tell you, I think this is the greatest question. Please take all the time you want answering this, because it's a very important question, because we get it a lot. What is the difference in you handling as an attorney my bankruptcy versus me doing it myself?
Oh, first of all, if I do it, it'd be done right. If you do it, I'll give you an example. I have clients who've done it themselves, so they've been prosecuted by the U.S. Trustee's Office. Discharging is denied, and some have criminal possibilities, for bankruptcy fraud.
Whoa.
So, if you think it's like, hey, someone says, it's just go on the website and fill out the forms, good luck to you. It's more than just filling out forms. You also got to know how to take the exemptions, how to do it. And I have clients that come in, don't even do, I check things out, but I'm not like Dick Tracy, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's certain things, if you have, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know from an asset and lien search. And I wouldn't know from things. If you got, $100,000 cash under your mattress, I wouldn't know, but sometimes I actually do know, because I could tell by the way you're answering questions. But like I had someone in the other day, a month ago, and we filed a case. And as we're filing it like that day, going over things, oh, by the way, you showed me something. I'm like, well, what's that? He's got crypto. I've asked you, I asked that question. You can have crypto. You can have, sometimes you can't get to it or whatever. You must disclose all your assets or all your liabilities. So then you had inventory in a business. Okay. I told him, just disclose it. Then we had the meeting just a couple of days ago, and I told him, I said, see, if you don't disclose it, you can be barred, not discharged of anything. But you got to just disclose it. It's not always an issue, because the inventory, maybe there's someone else in the business. What's it really worth? The company's out of business. You're getting rid of your personal liability. Otherwise, like in my client's case, the trustee's not taking it, but some inventory they had, but it's like it was worthless anyway. They let them have it. Who cares? Then they had some crypto, and this is an example I was given about the exemptions before. We're over the exemptions, but it wasn't that big a deal. But I told them, it's like, you got to disclose it, and it's some crypto, and some comes from overseas. If they want to try to get it, the trustee to liquidate, then whatever, then that's what they do. But in this case, even though it's over, the trustee, this was a reasonable trustee, and I know these people, this person, she's like, change some of these exemptions around, do this, and it's not worth my time, because to liquidate an asset, it's supposed to be done for a reasonable distribution to your creditors. But what happens in Chapter 7 is the first person to get paid is the trustee. Then the trustee can't represent the estate, so they got to hire a lawyer to represent the estate at big hourly rates, right? Most of these trustees also have law firms, so guess who's representing the law firm? So the trustees are getting their cut, the big law firms are getting the cut, right? Most of the money is going to them, and nothing's going to the creditors. It's really a shakedown in some cases. I'm saying, I have a client right now is being liquidated I wasn't his lawyer. They did Chapter 11, and they were converted, and there's a lot of assets and money and stuff. Different story, right? So, and then he hired me, and we're getting through that right now. Some adversary proceedings are filed for alleging fraud and dischargeability actions, and you got to be able to handle that, which a lot of lawyers can't. So, can you do your own case? I haven't seen it. And it's Chapter 13 for sure. It never works. I shouldn't say never. I guess maybe someone can do it, but hardly ever. Chapter 7, maybe you get lucky. But if you're going to save a couple bucks in attorney fees, to risk the whole case, that's on you.
Let's go to the chat line. Does equity get wiped out in Chapter 11?
Is this the same person asked a couple months ago or something like that? I think I had that question before. I don't know what you really mean, equity wipes out in Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is a corporate restructuring. of debt, or a person sometimes can do it or sometimes has to do it because of debt limits. Okay, so what do you mean by wiped out? Like losing your house? You
I
mean
don't know.
losing the property?
They must be listening right now.
Uh,
Maybe you can let us know what you mean by that.
because
Go
it's talking about losing
ahead.
the property. No, because unless you want to, because like I just filed a Chapter 11 plan in Wisconsin last week. There's real estate, there's equity involved. You structure the plan to keep it because you wanted to, right? And sometimes people talk about Chapter 11, but they really mean Chapter 13, or they don't know the difference between seven. So I don't know. Even in Chapter 13, it's designed to keep all your equity. That's what it's for, right? So it does not like that. Chapter 7, it's non-exempt equity you could lose. That's why the exemptions, as I mentioned, were going up in value. You keep more of your property. So in Chapter 11, if you mean losing the property, it depends on how you structure the plan. And if the idea is to keep it, that's usually why you're doing an 11 or 13, especially at 13, is to keep your property. So it absolutely is not getting wiped out. That's the whole point of a Chapter 13. The biggest use for Chapter 13 is someone actually in foreclosure or going to a sale, to keep your house, or other properties, but usually it's your house though. So that's what it's for. The government encourages that. The U.S. Congress encourages Chapter 13. Keep all your equity, keep all your assets, up to 5 years to restructure and pay back. And that's what it's for.
Kevin, I don't think people actually realize, I've learned from your show that you have got so many tools in the kit. I mean, it's not just cut and dry. Everybody's got a different case, and there's so many things that you can do, but they got to call you first, and they have to be honest with you up front.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's
no reason not to call because, I mean, especially if you have some basic questions. Sometimes people, I can't answer the question without more facts, but, usually,
right.
Instead of calling your friend, I'm your friend. Just call,
yes.
Call me because I know stuff at least. You know what I'm saying? If not me, call someone else with the experience who knows what they're doing.
Are there a lot of new tax laws going to be coming up in 26?
Tax laws are always changing with the administrations, especially with the administration changes. They were under Biden, they were increasing staff members and stuff, and under Trump, they're getting rid of a lot of agents and stuff. And it's a whole mess.
Let's go to the chat line again. Who gets paid first in Chapter 11?
Well, it depends how you structure the plan, right? So, usually I would do like secured creditors, right? But in Chapter 11, you have creditors, some are secured, unsecured, but you have classes of creditors. And like there's secured, unsecured, or the priority. And the case I was referenced a minute ago, and I filed in Chapter 11, I filed, I think, 7 different classes. And it takes a while to figure out, like creditors getting paid, because you have to get the vote. And you can't do a special class or a different class just because you want to get that vote from a different class to try to get the overall votes. You got to like creditors and be in the same class. It takes some time to do that. So right before the show, like 2 minutes before the show, I just got an email from one of those creditor attorneys. Hey, Kevin, I just saw the plan. Okay, looks good, but I want to talk about a couple different. You're negotiating with your creditors, so you're paying back like unsecured creditors. They get stuff too bad. That's easier to do. But on a secured creditor, are you behind or not behind? Is there equity? Are you doing a cram down? Are you trying to restructure the mortgage, where they tell you can't do that in bankruptcy, allegedly, if it's your primary residence, right? Even though there's exceptions to that, by the way. But also, if it's not your primary residence, yes, you can. And even your primary in 11, sometimes you can. Sometimes even in 13, you can. So don't talk to your friends. Ask me about it, because that's how we got. So am I restructuring that? Is their own class. Also, there's no Chapter 13 has like 60 months limits. There's no limit in a Chapter 11. I have a 11 coming up again next week, dealing with the lender creditor, and our plan's going more than 60 months. And they keep telling me, my client won't go to more than 60. And I kept telling them, it's not a Chapter 13. There's no limit. Now, the difference is, in a 13, if I file a reasonable and feasible plan, right, I don't need a vote, right? In 11, I do need to vote. So I'm trying to work with them. But otherwise, I have to do what's called a cram down on the vote, or just have a hearing on it and try to tell the judges in everyone's best interest, and it's, they don't know what they're doing. So and then we'll see what happens. But also, to get back to that question, in a Chapter 13, okay, there are priorities, right? Like you're in different jurisdictions, but it's like your mortgage is first, the mortgage arrears, your secured creditors first, before unsecured creditors. So like in Chapter 13, you may say, I'm paying $1,000 a month, blah, blah, blah. But maybe that includes your, a small car payment of $300, whatever, or towards the arrears. So even though I used the phrase, Chapter 13 is kind of like a court-ordered bill consolidation, just to try to make it simple to understand. But it's not like a consolidation where, like, hey, you're paying $1,000 a month, you got 10 credit cards, everyone gets $100, not counting trustees' fees, right? That's not how it is. So you may have creditors, and maybe they're getting 100% of the dollar or 40 cents on the dollar. But over the 60 months, they may not get, the unsecured may get zero for 3 years, 4 years, because even though the arrearage is being paid back on the mortgage, for example, over 60 months, that's a priority. So also they get paid back first. So 3 years later, most of the money is going back to get your car reinstated or get your mortgage reinstated, because like someone mentioned before in the cars, sometimes people are behind on the car payment. And that's why they're filing 13, just to make sure it's not, taken, or that it's already taken and it's not sold yet, and you want to get the car back. File Chapter 13. So in Chapter 13, there's more priorities. Chapter 11, different animal. That's more customizable with the attorneys. And there's different kinds of Chapter 11. There's a regular, there's a sub 5, there's a single asset real estate, there's small business, Chapter 11, different rules and procedures.
Going to the chat line, and this will help us go into our next segment. Can I use bankruptcy to write off back taxes owed?
Yes and no. So generally speaking, I'm talking about like IRS, right? Generally speaking, taxes are non-dischargeable unless they are. How's that for an answer, right? So IRS debt could be secured, generally unsecured, or priority unsecured. Priority unsecured, no. Okay. General unsecured, yes, because it's a whole formula on a chapter on an IRS debt, and that's another reason to have an attorney, because like someone says, I owe $30,000 to the IRS. Okay, well that's great, but you may owe for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. So of the 100 grand, whatever it was, or 30 grand, it's how much for each year, and what is the statute expiration date on each year? What is the bankruptcy dischargeability date on each year? So I got to know, if I file now, am I discharging all of it or some of it? Or, hey, if I wait a month, or like, in other words, like on 30 grand, for example, maybe 17,000 is discharged now. But hey, if I wait a month, I got another 3,000, or if I wait, 4 months, I get another 10,000, because I got to indicate that. And then we got to make an informed decision with the client what's going on, because if there's no other reason to file, you might as well wait a couple more months, get rid of it all, because in the Chapter 7 discharge, you can only get it every 8 years. Okay. So yes, IRS back taxes can be discharged. And I say can be, doesn't mean it's automatically. Okay. So you got to talk to a lawyer for sure about that, because you don't want to file too soon. You want to know the facts of that. But yeah, there is generally it's not dischargeable, but there is a lot of rules that if they apply, they are discharged.
We're going to go into our tax relief segment now, and we actually take this show and we run it 3 times during the month. this is again for Illinois, and we've already got questions that have come in. First one was, what are some of the common misconceptions taxpayers have about the IRS collections?
Well, some of what we just talked about, can taxes be discharged or not? Or, they don't have the ability to pay, so they don't want to just even open their mail, so to speak, that the IRS is not going to help them. And the IRS is not your friend, right? But the IRS will settle or help us work out an arrangement, right, for the reasonable collection potential. That's why you have a lawyer or other tax professional to negotiate with the IRS that reasonable collection potential. Is it an installment agreement? Is it a full pay installment agreement? Is it a partial pay installment agreement? Is it an offer in compromise? Do you qualify for currently non-collectible status for right now? And if so, is that even worthwhile? Effective tax administration. So one misconception is they won't resolve anything. They will. Kevin, I can't afford to pay $100,000. Okay. Well, show me, because that's what offer compromise is for. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes people, you can't dissipate assets. Like, oh, I got nothing. But you had a commercial. This happened last year. You had a commercial building paid for that you gave to your kids. So in the formula, I'm working with the IRS. That's in there, because you can't just give away your assets and say, I don't have anything. So this doesn't work like that. But also, what kind of case are we doing? Like, if I have an offer in compromise, maybe you're not qualifying because you have too much equity in the house. But a partial pay installment, the equity is not really part of the formula. So maybe we're getting to the same end game, but through a different manner, right? Sometimes you qualify for more than one resolution. So that's why you have a professional as well. So people don't understand that. Also, and it's not an offer in compromise. How much do you owe? Depending on the level, is there a revenue officer, a revenue agent? Are you in automatic collections? Where are you in the process? Right? Will dictate something. How much do you owe? Can I do a streamline offer? No documents. Different level, some documents. Different other levels, full documentation with someone reviewing everything. I'm saying. So, same thing on the other. So there's always offer and compromise, installment agreement. Then there's partial pay, and there's all different subcategories on how much you owe, what's happening, all that kind of stuff. Also, can you discharge it in bankruptcy? Maybe you don't even need it. You maybe get rid of it, right? Or you could maybe you want to pay it back, but you can pay it back. I have a Chapter 11 right now. The IRS, they levied the business. They're basically putting them out of business because they owe like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Without Chapter 11, I don't have. It turns out this is one of the cases I mentioned. So it's over $700,000, but
wow.
My client thought it was $560. They could actually do it in 5 years, no problem. But the IRS wouldn't even take whatever. But when I was doing the plan, I'm like, I don't. Now it's over 700, but some of it's secured, some of it's priority, some of it's generally unsecured. So when I was putting the plan together, because even in Chapter 11, like the priority IRS taxes have to get paid in 60 months or less, or a certain time frame without going, unless we get permission from the IRS, right? But with most of it's being secured, this payment's going to be really small. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, he's got to pay back the $700,000 anyway. So I had to structure it where it's like, I don't need the votes. I'm not violating the IRS section where I have to pay in a certain time frame, right? But I have the ability to be flexible where I can take some of that secured one and pay it back, on different terms, and the client would be happy, and so hopefully so would the IRS. So that's part of the customization and why you have an attorney.
Here's my boss owes the IRS. I sign on some of the checks. Okay. Can the IRS come after me?
Okay, so there's different kinds of taxes. So we're talking about some business taxes now. Talking about payroll taxes or unemployment taxes. There's a thing called sometimes people borrow the tax money, from payroll, and that's a trust fund recovery is what it's called. And there's a responsible party could be liable for that. So possibly yes. But you may not be the responsible party, but if you're involved in a certain manner, you can be. So I can't give you an answer, a legal answer right now based upon that one sentence general question, other than to say is you can be. Because you didn't even tell me what kind of tax it was. But I'm assuming it sounds like it's payroll tax.
Well, she said I sign on some accounts payable.
Well, accounts payable is not a tax. That's just bills.
Yeah, but what she's wondering is he's apparently having tax problems on the business, and she's concerned that she signed some checks on the business. Can the IRS come after her as well?
But she signed checks to who?
She just said accounts
payable.
payable.
Is just paying bills. So you're paying your gas bill. You're paying So I mean, if you're like the bookkeeper, you're just paying bills. The question sounds like the business has an IRS issue, right?
Yes.
Most likely, this could be employees. So when you have employees, like you have the FICA, state tax, you have all these taxes come out, right? And then the business is supposed to turn that over to the government, and sometimes they don't. They borrow, and that creates a tax problem, right? And that's a trust fund recovery where someone's personally liable, unless the business is going to take care of that. But if that's the case, but then you're like just working there, not part of the company, and you're just like paying the bills that come in, paying vendors and paying you're just no, because you're not a responsible party because you're not involved in the tax thing. And also, it sounds like the checks you say you're cutting. I mean, if it's like you're paying ComEd, I mean, you're paying the rent. I mean, that's just under the person's direction of what you're paying. But so I don't see the correlation unless the person should call me because obviously there's some kind of disconnect there, right. And I don't want to.
What happens when a taxpayer first falls behind on their tax payments?
Sorry, who?
It says, what happens when a taxpayer first falls behind on their tax payments?
Okay, so like an individual, maybe they're an independent contractor where they're supposed to be paying taxes themselves. What happens is there's a lot of penalties and interest on there, which sometimes could be abated depending on certain situations. Otherwise, you're going to wind up owing money to the IRS. They're going to start sending you letters saying, "Hey, you didn't pay," or you're going to owe money, and then you'd be calling me to resolve it, and that's tax resolution. So you fall behind, the IRS wants their money, and they want you back in the tax system. So we get in there, and let's say you're 4 years behind, you haven't filed taxes because you're an independent contractor. Well, even to resolve a resolution with the IRS, you need to become compliant. Compliant means file all your returns. So I tell clients, if you're behind, you got to file the return. Maybe you owe more money. That's fine. Now we know the number, right? And we'll resolve it, right? But if you're not compliant, they're not going to resolve certain taxes and you haven't filed the last 2 years. Or once they resolve it with you, let's say you're doing an installment agreement, moving forward, I had a client right now, because now we're coming into the new year, and then eventually be a new tax thing. So if you resolve it right now, which is great, but now if April comes and you didn't file your 2025 returns, you can get the program, all the money you paid will be gone, and they can cancel the installment agreement because now you're not compliant unless you have an extension or something like that. But so you got to keep things going.
Here's a text we got from Marvin. This is also Chicago. I just found your show. Thank you so much for giving such great information. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't filed in 5 years. I got a letter from the IRS saying how much I owe.
Okay.
What percent of your clients get a letter like this that actually owe a lot less?
Whole a lot less. A low
Than what
percentage.
the IRS says that they owe.
It's a low. It happens. It's a low percentage. People like I had one just a couple of weeks ago. We were talking to about a month ago. We're talking to the IRS, trying to submit a resolution. They had some questions. More complicated return of business. What was this for? So next thing you know, they actually gave credit to my client. So she didn't. I guess I shouldn't say she owed less when they gave her the letter, but when we're resolving it, she owed less. I had another one a year ago. They were like 1.1. They thought it was 600,000, over $1 million. Well, it turns out we decided to have them amend a couple of returns and I don't do tax returns. Okay, so I had their CPAs. I gave them somebody, or they had their own. I gave them some names. They amended it, right? Because if a professional was, maybe someone did their taxes or their friend or whatever, so maybe they didn't take the proper exemptions, or there's other things they could write off, because people have more complicated businesses. So it wound up being like $300,000-$400,000, came off that, which also got us to a different level, a lower level with the IRS, to be easier to resolve, because we were in the max, all eyes on you thing in there. So it's not that they are wrong when they assess it, but maybe you didn't take all your credits. It's very rare. I'm working on one right now. Oh, I paid. Okay, well, show me, because when I get the tax transcript form, which I did, it's not on there. So, you got proof that you paid it, made payments. I'll take care of it. But it's very rare. It's probably not, more like none. But sometimes it can be reduced, because you're actually looking at things and having a more professional person redo your returns, take some things you didn't take. But oftentimes it's the opposite. A lot of scams out there. One a week or two ago, it happens a lot. A new one a week or two ago. Had a high school friend do the return. Got a refund of like $40,000. It doesn't really work.
Wow.
How do you get a refund? He's really, 3 years later, they're onto her, right? The guy,
yes,
did some bullshit. I'm sorry, BS. BS
okay.
Credits, whatever. People are taking the employee retention credit scam, or I see a lot of gas scams. I people come in and I'm like, they're, oh, the IRS is wrong, because there's like, no, because what happened is someone filed your return. Turns out you were taking this big gas credit. Are you a trucker? Are you an independent contractor? No, I don't. But how do you have that huge $40,000, credit? So now they're reversing it. So now you owe the money. Oh, but the money's gone. Yeah, it's called fraud. You signed the return. This person came in the other day and like, how do you not know? I think it was like $30,000 or $40,000. You actually got the money. You were hardly even working, right? What makes you think you're getting it? It's amazing, right? And then it turns out, I'm asking the questions, what did the person charge you, right? Oh, some cash over here, this and that. No, $15,000. A lot for a return, don't you think? And then, one of our friends or boyfriends, fiance comes, how come the IRS is not after him? Why would they be after him? He didn't sign the return, this person, right? They don't know he got the money because she got the money. So, it's a police matter. You should make a police report. Otherwise, I'm going to have to resolve it for you, but you're going to owe the money. Whether you go after that person or not, different story. I had other ones who got scammed, okay, without knowing, who actually didn't get the money, right? And then they got to the criminal division. So most IRS taxes are civil. There's a criminal division also that you don't want to be in, right? But we were able to show that the person was scammed, and the scammer wasn't the first time this happened. You know what I'm saying? So they kind of knew about the guy. So we cooperated, and they put him in civil, and we resolved it. But he had to amend the returns though to make it, because you signed the return. See, that's the whole thing. I was telling this person last week. I said, you signed that. You signed a false. It's a felony. You just signed a false return. So you're going to have to amend that. And not through me. You have to go to a regular CPA and make sure you do it right, and take that back. And then she's not in the criminal division right now, and she was a little scared. And I'm like, okay, so amend it. They know about it anyway. All the money, and let's make sure you got your the last couple of years she didn't even file. She just filed them a couple of days ago, because I can't really do the resolution until she's compliant. And now we'll just get in there, and we'll work out an arrangement, and it'll be fine in that case, because she's on top of it right now. But people get scammed all the time.
Well, speaking of scams, I bet you this question that came in on the chat line sounds like someone wants to make sure they're not being scammed. How does the IRS initially communicate with taxpayers about their unpaid taxes?
Letters. They do not call you. They do not come to your house.
Email?
They do not send you an email, and they don't text you. Okay? It's an official letter. And I say official, show me the letter, because I have people coming, show me a letter. That's a fake letter. I could tell. You know what I'm saying? Or some, scammers, they try to make it look like it's the IRS, but they're really a collector.
Right.
But the IRS will not be calling you. They're not knocking on your door. They're not sending the police over, and they're not taking gift cards. Go to Target and get gift cards. You got to pay. Wow. Some of these things. And they're not taking Bitcoin either. Okay. So it's by letter, by official letter. That's how they do it.
Okay. Because I know I get calls. I don't have any tax issues, but I swear, Kevin, I get so many robocalls. You owe the IRS. You better contact us right away. And there's so many scams out there.
Because owing the money, like you may have a federal tax lien to some people, right? So that's public record. So they know who you are. There's letters. Sometimes we do marketing letters. Sometimes a lot of professionals do that way. But the scammers take that, and so they can find you, or they find your phone number, and they're giving the robocalls or high pressure stuff, and they'll probably call from overseas, so all that kind of stuff. And so and people be like, oh my God, I do all the money, so it must be real. It's not real. I have clients who are educated and smart calling me up. The IRS just called me. No, actually, they didn't. But thank you. It's like no. They're coming. They're not coming.
Well, I did call the IRS, and we've talked about this before. I was on the phone for about an hour, waiting to get a live voice.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any liens or anything against me. So I was like, I cannot believe there's people out there. Because I'm in Florida. We've got an older demographics here.
Right.
And I feel so bad, because I bet you some of these older people fall for these scams.
Oh, absolutely. You're absolutely. And, the thing is, like with caller ID, a lot of technology could have the caller ID be to a real, it may say IRS, or they could put any number on there. So it makes it look like it is from the IRS.
Yeah, right.
And so you got to be careful. It's a lot of ways to do it. But a lot of the elderly, because they don't know. They're scared,
Kevin, your show goes by so fast. Kevin will be with us again next month. Hey, Kevin, have a happy holiday, a happy new year. We are so lucky to have you. Thank you to all the people who text us, who sent a question in. Kevin, we'll see you next month. Tell people how they can reach you.
312-853-3100. That's 312-853-3100. Or go to benjaminlaw.com. or nobletaxrelief.com. Either way.
Kevin, you're the best. Have a
Thanks.
great holiday. We'll see you next month.
Bye-bye.
That's attorney Kevin Benjamin. And that's going to do it for today. We'll be back again with you. Hey, you know what? We won't be back live next week, but we will have one of our replay shows on. Thanks for tuning in today. We'll see you again.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.